Hello friends, this is tutorial number 58 in these Turbo Pascal programming language tutorials. In this tutorial we will create one application. It will be calculator and we will calculate body fat. Body fat calculator, okay. And it will have two options. We will need to select gender. We can select of course male or female, and depending on that we will have some different options, but let me create a record. Type, I will type woman. It will be here, woman, which will be record. And we need a couple of fields. We will need a weight, which will be an integer. Wrist. Okay, these fields will be an integer, all of them. Waist, hip, all of these fields will be an integer. And what can we do? We will put forearm. All of these fields are integers. Okay, we have 5 fields. We will put and let's create one more record. It will be man. And here we will just create 2 fields. Weight which will be an integer, and here I made a mistake, it's waist, and here we will create waist, but we need to move this to the right. Waist will be an integer, and it's enough. We will have just 2 fields in the record man. Now we will need to create couple of variables, and of course to calculate we want to calculate body fat and body fat percentage. We will need to use couple of formulas, and of course we need for that we will need to create a couple of variables, and let's start. But how we gonna do this? We will need variables. We will type A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 and B, which will be variables, but these variables will not be integer because we will have decimals. It will be real numbers. And we want to calculate variable body fat and body fat percentage. And it will be real numbers. And we will need let's create records variable. We will call it man1, which will be man, and we will create record woman 1, which will be woman, of course. Okay, and now let's create, maybe we will need couple more variables, one, or we will not need more variables. Let's create, until then, let's create begin and end of this application, and let's use read line. And now we will need to create a menu. Of course, it will be, just a second, right line. It can be a welcome message. Welcome using the body fat calculator. Pretty much interesting. And now we need a message, but before that we can use an empty string. And now let's create a question, right line, enter your gender, and now we will need to enter the gender, and for that we will need one more variable, which will be variable gender. It will be string. And now we will need to input gender. We will put input and string. We will not have the menu, and we will not select number 1, number 2. We need to input gender. And now let's create one control statement. If gender equals to female, but female needs to be, it is a string, needs to be in the quotes, then, and let's create begin and end of this control statement. We will not use a semicolon here because we will have else if. We will need a procedure, and let's give the name of this procedure. It will be scan woman or scan female. It's the same thing. Female is a gender, but we create a record which is a woman, and of course we have our record woman 1. It is better to be scan woman 1, but we will use a procedure, but we still didn't create. We will create a later. And now we will need else if statement equals to, if we select, if we type male, then we will need begin and end of this control statement. We will have else statement also, and because of that we will not use semicolon. it will be procedure scan man. And we created a record man1. And now we will need else statement. This else statement will also have begin and end, and it will have one message. Of course, this is else statement. We need a semicolon after the end, and let's write we need a message, and it will be the gender type you entered is invalid. This is a simple message that we will need. The point is we will need to enter the gender or male or female. If we type something else, we will have just this or some number or some other text. We will see this message: the gender type you entered and is invalid. And this is good. But now what we need to do? We need to define these two procedures. And let's go up here where we defined variables. Here we can create procedure. We already give the name scan woman. And we will need variable. It will be W, which will be woman. And now let's create begin and end of this procedure. And let's write with the name of the local variable is W. With W do, and again we will need begin and end. And now let us start. First we will start with an empty string. And now we need a message. We need to enter all of the fields that record woman has. Let's start. Right line. Enter your body weight. And we need to read the line. We have a record W dot weight. Now another message will be right line. Enter your wrist measurement at fullest point. It will be in inches. Semicolon here. And now we need to read the line W dot wrist and let's continue. Right line, enter your waist measurement, at navel. It will be also in inches. And now we need to read the line W dot waist. This is good. Now let's continue. Right line, enter your hip measurement at fullest point. It will be also in inches. And now we need to read the line W dot hip. And we have left forearm. Let's write a message. The message will be enter your forearm measurement at fullest point. And it will also be in inches. Semicolon. And now we need to read the line. It will be W dot forearm. Okay, let me just see. We have weight, wrist, waist, hip, and forearm. I think this is that field. Weight, wrist, waist, hip, and forearm, which is great. And now we need to use couple of formula. Now let's start. We defined variables from A1 to A5. Now let us start to use them. A1 will be equals it will be W dot weight multiplied with we will need a formula. It will be 0.732 plus 8.987. It is just a formula. You don't need to worry about this. Of course, if you are good with math, you already know this. But if you didn't, okay, this is just we will just use a couple of formulas to calculate body fat and the percentage. And we need now to define A2, which will be equals. We need to use W dot wrist divided with 3.140. And now we need to define A3, which will be equals to W dot waste multiplied with 0.157. Now let's define A4, which will be W dot heap multiplied with 0.249. A lot of formulas here. Now let's define A5. It will be W dot forearm multiplied with 0.434. And now we need to define variable b. Now how we will gonna calculate this? We need to A1, we need to use addition with A2, and we need to subtract A3 and A4, and we need to add A5. Now when we define B, we can calculate body fat. Body fat will be equals to W dot weight. We need to discount B from the weight. But let me see if this is the name of the variable. Okay, body fat and body fat percentage, it's good. Now when we have body fat, we can calculate body fat percentage will be equals to body fat multiplied with 100 and divided with W dot weight. And with this we calculate body fat and body fat percentage, and we will need to write this. And first let's use couple of stars. When we enter gender, in this case we will enter female, we need to enter all of these fields, and as a result we want to see body fat and body fat percentage. It's the same thing, we want to see if we type female or male. And let's write body fat and we need a variable body fat. And now we will write body fat percentage, and we will need a variable body fat percentage, and we will use percent as a text, and this should be fine. And we will need, okay, let me put one more star here, and I will use below this, I will use also these stars. And now this should be fine. We resolved this option if we enter gender woman. Also, it will be if we select, not select if we type female. And now we need another procedure. This was the procedure scan woman. And now we need to create procedure scan man. Let's do it here. Here this procedure ends, and below we will create another one, but not here. It needs to be here. Procedure scan man. We will need variable m, which will be man. And now let's define this procedure, begin and end, and we will write with m do, and we will need begin and end, and let's start. First we will need an empty string, we will need a little space. And we will write enter your body weight and we need to read the line m dot weight, and we need another message. Enter your waist measurement at the navel, and it will be in inches. And we need to read the line m dot waist. And this will be good. Now we need to use formulas again, and we need to define, but in this record man we don't have fields that that we have in the record woman. We just have two fields, and let's define a1, which will be equals, the formula will be different, m dot weight multiplied with 1.082, okay, with 3 decimals, plus 94.42. And we need to calculate A2. It will be equals to waste m dot waste multiplied with 4.50. And we also need to define b, which will be equals subtraction of the A1 and A number 2. And now when we found B, we can calculate body fat will be equals to m dot weight minus B. And now we can calculate body fat percentage. Will be equals to body fat multiplied with 100 and divided with m dot weight. And this should be good. Now what we need to do, we will just copy and paste this, but before we do that, we want to display body fat and body fat percentage. We forgot, and we want to, this is a real numbers, and we want to display it with 2 decimals. We will use 2.4 and 2.2, and the same thing we will use here. We forgot it, this is a real numbers. Now let's use this. And let's paste it here. And this should be good. Now let me see if we forget something. Nothing special. Here we will use a scan woman procedure, and here we will use scan man procedure. Of course, if we type something else, we will receive this message. But now what we need to do, we will need to compile this to see where the errors, where we have the errors. Okay, body fat, it's not a body fat, it's a body fat, syntax error. And I suppose that we have this syntax error here also, because we used copy paste. Now let's compile again to see. Okay, here instead of dot we used comma. Okay, we forgot gender here. Let's compile again. Now it is good. We have no more errors. Now let us try to run this application to see how it will gonna work. Enter your gender. We could use 2 dots, but let's type baby. and the gender type you entered is invalid. But let me just here enter your gender. We will put 2 dots. It will be prettier. And now let's clear this window and let's run again. Enter your gender. Let's enter female. And now we need to enter your body weight. We will input 140. Enter your wrist measurement at fullest point in inches. We will enter, it can be 6. Enter your waist measurement at navel in inches. It will be 26. Of course, we put these variables are integers. And enter your hip measurement at fullest point in inches. It will be 34. And now we need to enter your forearm measurement at fullest point, and we will enter 12. And let me see the result. Body fat is 33.69 and body fat percentage is 24.26%. Okay, this works fine. And now what we will gonna do? Okay, we try when we enter something that is not or male or female, and we saw how it works. It works fine in the when we enter female. Now let's clear this and let's try to type male. Enter your gender is it's male. Okay, and now we have a question. Enter your body weight. We will enter we can enter 200. And now we have a question. Enter your waist measurement at navel in inches, and let's type 36. And as a result we have body fat is 38.58 and body fat percentage is 19.29, and as we can see this works perfectly fine, which is pretty much good. And this was not so much complicated application, but probably the most difficult thing that we use here is this formula. But okay, you don't need even I don't know this. I don't have these formulas in my mind. Don't be afraid because of this. Of course, you can always, when you want to calculate these things, you can use the internet or any formula. When you want to use when you want to create some calculator, you need a couple of formulas. Of course, you can use internet. We don't need to have all of this in our mind. The most important thing that this application works properly. This is the most important thing. We create our records, procedures, and the menu. And depending if we select male, we create this procedure, and if for female we have a procedure, and for male we also have the procedure. And this menu is pretty much simple, and that's good. This is our application. I really hope that you like this video. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. You have a link in the description, and I will see you in the next tutorial.